Hello. That is my go get your book finger. That's my teacher. Hey, go get your book. Get it, open it up, and let's read. Very serious face. Oh, I just finished work. Those of you on Discord know I texted and said, or commented and said, tedious work. Like, when you're in high school, you hate homework and you dread it, but then you grow up and everything's homework. It's work. It's not homework. It's boring and hard and difficult and you don't like it. Hey, Kristen, I'm griping. I had to do a whole bunch of Excel work today that I don't love. And I had to do a webinar, which, hey, Gavin, Siddharth, I was just thinking about you. How was this week with exams? But so I'm griping. I'm in the middle of my gripe. Good for you. So the webinar was fun, but it's on Zoom, and I'm not so great with technology. And so you have to, as the host, you have to let the callers in, you have to monitor the chat, but you're sharing your screen. So you're trying to have your screen in front of you, have your script in front of you of what you're going to say, your notes and everything, see when people are chatting, figure out how to get to the chat. It just makes me a nervous wreck. I kept asking myself, why aren't you a nervous wreck when you're on 3 weeks? I'm sorry, Gavin. Why aren't you a nervous wreck when you're on YouTube live? That's just like talking to friends. But when I'm doing work stuff, it's like I've got to get it right. I'm representing the state. I have to have all the answers right. I can't make mistakes with the technology. That's why I don't want to monetize YouTube, because if you monetize it, then people are paying in some way, whether you guys are paying or the advertisers are paying, the quality needs to be like amazing. And we all know my quality is not amazing. Technology is not my thing. So your first year of high school, you read Purple Hibiscus for school. Interesting. Um, I just like that author, and that's why I read her. I didn't know that she was being read in high school. I'm really glad that it helped you. Have you read the end yet? I don't want to spoil anything. Um, so anyway, my point is I'm griping because I was a grown up today. I was adulting today. And now I just need to be around you guys and relax and have fun and read. So if I feel a little edgy, like with the beginning with meh, that's where I am. I need to take a breath. I haven't done my yoga yet. I should have done that a long time ago. But I'm really enjoying this book. And we're on chapter 44. It's not a real long chapter, but I don't think we have enough time to read 44 and 45. Their eyes were watching God. That was a great story. I love that one. All right, chapter 44. If you are following along with me, it's page 242. Farid, I just did that for you because you're the only person I know that ever has a book in front of them, even though it's not the same one. It's chapter 44, page 242. Elizabeth had settled it that Mr. Darcy would bring his sister to visit her. Oh, so they are going to keep seeing each other. The very day after her reaching Pemberley, and was consequently resolved not to be out of sight of the inn in the whole of that morning. But her conclusion was false, for on the very morning after their own arrival at Lambton, these visitors came. They had been walking about the place with some of their new friends, and were just returned to the inn to dress themselves for dining with the same family, when the sound of a carriage drew them to a window, and they saw a gentleman and a lady in a curricle driving up the street. Elizabeth, immediately recognizing the livery, guessed what it meant, and imparted no small degree of surprise to her relations, by acquainting them with the honor which she expected. Her uncle and aunt were all amazement, and the embarrassment of her manner as she spoke, joined to the circumstance itself, and many of the circumstances of the preceding day, opened to them a new idea on the business. Nothing had ever suggested it before, but they now felt that there was no other way of accounting for such attentions from such a quarter than by supposing a partiality for their niece. So they figured out, so I was telling them about Discord because it's growing and I love it. I love chatting with y'all over there. So they're like, oh, he likes you. That's why he's around. He likes you. And she's like, how could he possibly like me? I was terrible to him. So he likes her. While these newly born notions were passing in their heads, the perturbation of Elizabeth's feelings was every moment increasing. She's getting more and more uncomfortable. Hey, Olivia. She was quite amazed at her own discomposure, but amongst other causes of disquiet, she dreaded lest the partiality of her brother should have said too much in her favor, and more than commonly anxious to please, she naturally suspected that every power of pleasing would fail her. Austen is very wordy, and when I was teaching, I don't know if it was Pride and Prejudice, but it was an Austen story. My students were really strong grammar students that year. They were in a private school and they had been raised doing Abeka, which the thing I have to say about Abeka that is very, very good is it really teaches grammar if that's important. The question is grammar important? But they were really good at grammar. And so we had this literally 1 page long sentence, and I had them diagram that sentence. It was amazing that it was correct. Like, unbelievable how much she can put into a sentence and it all be grammatically correct. When I was teaching also, and I would get kids to just write simple sentences, not complex compound sentences, just simple sentences. It was impossible to ever get the subject verb agreement or to get the pronoun antecedent agreement. Now I'm talking a language that some of you just tune out, but that's part of being an English teacher. And so it was funny to me that those kids that have been so grounded in grammar, could diagram one of Jane Austen's sentences. Craziness. Have I lost y'all? Because I got a funny little glitch. Siddharth, if you're still out there, are we still live? CJ, that's throwback at CJ. I was just griping about my day. I'm brain tired, so that's why I'm glad to be here. She was quite amazed at her own discomposure. I read that. She retreated from the window, fearful of being seen, and as she walked up and down the room, endeavoring to compose herself, saw some looks of inquiring surprise in her uncle and aunt, as made everything worse. Miss Darcy and her brother appeared, and this formidable introduction took place. Formidable, like so hard to overcome, so big. I'm sorry it wasn't great. Thanks. I'm off tomorrow, so it should be better. It wasn't bad. It's just it required me to think a lot. It was a job I had a lot of work today that required a lot of focus, and it required Excel and spreadsheets, and I don't like Excel and spreadsheets. But thank you for caring. I appreciate you asking. Formidable. Where did formidable go? With astonishment did Elizabeth see that her new acquaintance was at least as much embarrassed as herself. Since her being at Lambton, she had heard that Miss Darcy was exceedingly proud, but the observation of a very few minutes convinced her that she was also exceedingly shy. She found it difficult to obtain even a word from her beyond a monosyllable. Thank you, Nadia, Youssef. I appreciate you letting me know. Oh, I didn't see I'm glad I found your channel. What inspires me? Not inspires me. What inspires you? Like the literature or what? I love to know. Give me more information because I'm insatiably curious about why people follow this channel. I really want to do some research on it, but I'm just too darn lazy. I want to do a research project and share it with other educators. Homemade chicken and waffles. CJ, where should I come to get those? I appreciate it. I like when you pop in. Thanks. So sometimes, have you ever known somebody that had the reputation of being really snobby, and it turns out they're just horribly shy? Well, that's Miss Darcy. She comes across as aloof. And that was kind of, I think, Mr. Darcy, too. They had not been long together before Darcy told her that Bingley was also coming to wait on her, and she had barely time to express her satisfaction and prepare for such a visitor, when Bingley's quick step was heard on the stairs, and in a moment he entered the room. All Elizabeth's anger against him had been long done away, but had she felt any, it could hardly have stood its ground against the unaffected cordiality with which he expressed himself on seeing her again. So even if she wanted to still be mad at him, which she wasn't, she couldn't have been because he's such a nice guy. He inquired in a friendly, though general way, after her family, and looked and spoke with the same good-humored ease that he had ever done. To Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner, he was scarcely a less interesting personage than to herself. They had long wished to see him, The whole party before them indeed excited a lively attention. The suspicions which had just arisen of Mr. Darcy and their niece directed their observation towards each with an earnest, though guarded, inquiry, and they soon drew from those inquiries the full conviction that one of them at least knew what it was to love. Of the lady's sensations they remained a little in doubt, but that the gentleman was overflowing with admiration was evident enough. Elizabeth, on her side, had much to do. She wanted to ascertain the feelings of each of her visitors. She wanted to compose her own and to make herself agreeable to all. And in the latter object, where she feared most to fail, she was most sure of success, for those to whom she endeavored to give pleasure were prepossessed in her favor. Bingley was ready, Georgiana was eager, and Darcy determined to be pleased. Sarah Bailey, so grateful that I found your channel. I'm so glad you found it too. That means more readers, and that makes me happy. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for coming in and speaking to me. In seeing Bingley, her thoughts naturally flew to her sister, and oh, how ardently did she long to know whether any of his were directed in a like manner. Like, oh, my sister loves you so much. Do you feel the same way about? Do you feel the same way about her, my sister? Do you still think about her? Sometimes she could fancy that he talked less than on former occasions, and once or twice pleased herself with the notion that as he looked at her, he was trying to trace the resemblance. But though this might be imaginary, she could not be deceived as to his behavior to Miss Darcy, who had been set up as a rival of Jane. No look appeared on either side that spoke particular regard. Nothing occurred between them that could justify the hopes of his sister. On this point she was soon satisfied, and 2 or 3 little circumstances occurred ere they parted, which in her anxious interpretation denoted a recollection of Jane not untinctured by tenderness, and a wish of saying more that might lead to the mention of her had he dared. He observed to her, at a moment when the others were talking together, in a tone which had something of real regret, that it was a very long time since he'd had the pleasure of seeing her. And before she could reply, he added, "It's above 8 months. We have not met since the 26th of November, when we were all dancing together at Netherfield." So he remembers the date, the last time he saw Jane. Audiobooks. I'm reading Nadia's comment. It says, "You're inspiring because I always love the idea of audiobooks and been wanting to create a channel of my own." Oh, please do it. We have so many requests every day for books. There's no way I'll get them all read. I would love to know that somebody else is out there doing this. Just reading books and talking about it with people who care. Come join us in Discord, Nadia. We talk about all kinds of interesting books over there. And we talk about life and philosophy and world interests and movies and, just nerdy people who like to talk about nerdy things. Oh, did Siddhartha leave? How do you know that he left, Gavin? Let me see if I can put it on here. It's very hard for me to coordinate all this. There's the invite. Copy the share link. Okay. Now I need to go to where I'm live. There it is, live. Oh, you can hear the feedback. Let's pause that. Now I'm going to put top right of the chat. You can see who's watching. I did not know that. Okay, I just posted. It should come in a second. I just posted the link to Discord. Yep, there it is. Oh, it took a long time. Participants, look at that. I never knew that. That is good to know. Thank you for telling me that. See, you guys are amazing. I learn from you all the time. Brooke Snyder, I'm reading The Kite Runner. Oh, keep Kleenex. I looked at an audiobook and found your account. You helped me a ton with reading. Good. Seriously, Nadia, if you are interested in doing it, I just opened up my laptop when I was teaching and I started reading. I don't edit. I mean, there are so many ways to improve this if you're young and clever with technology, but people really respond to having books read and to read. Like, my teaching style is to stop, explain things, to break it up when you feel like you're getting bored, because they're probably getting bored too. I just added the link, Nadia, above, so you should be able to find it in the chat. You can stop and explain words to them, or if you know historical context or if you know cultural context, you can add that as you read, which is what I do. Now that annoys a lot of people, and I say over and over again, this is not an audiobook, this is teaching. So if you're a teacher, if you have a love for teaching, if you want to be a teacher one day, if you're good at technology, you don't have to be good at technology, but in my mind, I imagine a million great ways to use this. Like you make things, pictures of old antiquated things pop up, like where we just talked about, they arrived in a certain kind of curricle, then a curricle could have popped up right then in editing. I like to read live and then I don't think about it anymore, but really good YouTubers do a lot of editing and they make it really fancy and really special. But, oh, chemistry. Gavin, I'm so sorry. 3 more weeks. That's all you have to laugh. 3 more weeks. Christmas is in two weeks. Do you go to school through the Christmas holidays? I'm so sorry. This elf has gotten things all going. I've been wrapping presents and getting stockings ready. I'm sorry that you have, maybe you go to a school doesn't celebrate Christmas. I shouldn't presume. Now let's hear. He remembers. He remembers old Bingley. He remembers the last time he saw Jane. We're a week off, and the week after Christmas, our last week. That's worse. Elizabeth was pleased to find his memory so exact, and he afterwards took occasion to ask her, when unattended by any of the rest, whether all her sisters were at Longbourn. There was not much in the question, nor in the preceding remark, but there was a look and a manner which gave them meaning. It was not often that she could turn her eyes on Mr. Darcy himself, but whenever she did catch a glimpse, she saw an expression of general complacence, and in all that he said, she heard an accent so far removed from hauteur, from being, patronizing and better than her, or disdain of his companions, as convinced her that the improvement of manners which she had yesterday witnessed, however temporary its existence might prove, had at least outlived one day. Gavin, I don't know if you're still, I can see if you're still there. Let's see. You taught me this. Yeah, you're still there. What used to make me crazy as a teacher is that you would teach up until the break, then the kids would be gone for break, and they'd have to come back for exams. You knew they weren't studying over break, so you felt like you had to make your exam easier, which felt not a good thing. Or if you made it hard, they came back, they didn't care, they didn't want to do it. I hated exams coming at the end of a break. There's nice bird sounds. Yeah, well, now that's a big truck going by and a dog barking. But I do have lovely birds and squirrels in my neighborhood. Nadia, thanks for the suggestions. I'll let you know when I get around to making the channel. I would love it, and I'd be happy to link you to my channel. I really encourage it. I mean, from the feedback I get, there's no way I can keep up with the book requests. And I'm happy to pass along to book requests that I haven't been able to get to. I'll keep reading, but with me working full time, I get on maybe 3 times a week. So you just can't get through. I mean, it's taken me, I started this book at the beginning of October and we're in December. So that tells you how long it takes me to get through a book. You have to have a thick skin because you'll get some thumbs down and you'll get some rude comments every now and then. And you have to be like, okay, that's their issue. And if they don't like you, they don't have to come to your YouTube channel. So don't let it hurt your feelings if you start a channel. You've got to just be like, I'm doing this because it makes me happy. And that's why I do it, because it makes me happy. But I am happier when we have a lot of people that come onto the chat and when we get a lot of questions. So there's so many things Gavin's taught me. Pop out chat. That's so interesting. Look at that. I can manage moderators too. So interesting. Well, now I'm sidetracked. Sorry. All right. Keep reading. Never, even in the company of his dear friends at Netherfield or his dignified relations at Rosings, had she seen him so desirous to please, so eager to please. So free from self-consequence or unbending reserve as now, when no importance could result from the success of his endeavors, and when even the acquaintance of those to whom his attentions were addressed would draw down the ridicule and censure of the ladies both of Netherfield and Rosings. Their visitors stayed with them about half an hour. Hi, funny makers. That's nice feedback, Nadia. Thank you. I don't know why this says welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. I've never seen that message before. Why does it say that? Hi, Maddie Sims. I'm not really keeping up. I'm very ADHD and I get distracted easily. So, like, I really want to be done with the book because I like the book and I should read every day. But a lot of days I'm just too tired. I'm doing a survey. Sorry to interrupt. Do you think an electoral college should exist? Exit or exist? What's bothering? Yeah, it's bothering within the US. Exist. Okay. Are you asking me specifically, funny makers? Do I think an electoral college? I can't. That is such a complicated question. I don't have a yes or no. It comes up every time I write a comment. Oh, you're talking about you're talking about welcome to live chat. No, I've never had it before. Interesting. Every time you write a comment, well, you never say anything inappropriate for read. Oh, funny makers. I think it should exist, but I think it should be amended. That's really what I think. Like, let's say there's 10 votes in Louisiana. There's 8, but let's say there's 10 because I'm terrible at math. And let's say 60% of the vote goes to one candidate and 40% goes to another candidate. Then I think 6 of the electoral college votes should go to that candidate and 4 should go to the other. That's what I think. That wasn't your question, though. So I don't know how to answer your question, funny makers. I just called you funny. And guys, y'all are welcome to answer the electoral college too. If you're doing that for school, I think that's great. Their visitors stayed with them about half an hour, and when they arose to depart, Mr. Darcy called on his sister to join him in expressing their wish of seeing Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner and Miss Bennet to dinner at Pemberley before they left the country. Miss Darcy, though with a diffidence which marked her little in the habit of giving invitations, readily obeyed. Mrs. Gardiner looked at her niece, desirous of knowing how she, whom the invitation most concerned, felt disposed as to its acceptance. But Elizabeth had turned away her head. Presuming, however, that this studied avoidance spoke rather a momentary embarrassment than any dislike of the proposal, and seeing in her husband, who was fond of society, a perfect willingness to accept it, she ventured to engage for her attendance, and the day after the next was fixed on. Bingley expressed great pleasure in the certainty of seeing Elizabeth again, having still a great deal to say to her, and many inquiries to make after all their Hertfordshire friends. Elizabeth, construing all this into a wish of hearing her speak of her sister, was pleased, and on this account, as well as some others, found herself, when their visitors left them, capable of considering the last half hour with some satisfaction, though while it was passing the enjoyment of it had been little. Eager to be alone and fearful of inquiries or hints from her uncle and aunt, she stayed with them only long enough to hear their favorable opinion of Bingley, and then hurried away to dress. I wonder if there's some way I can delete it or something. I don't know. I've never had it before. Do you have your chat popped out? Because I popped out the chat, and that's the first time it's ever happened for me. Maddie, I'm using your playlist for Great Gatsby. Explain as you read. We're reading in AP language right now. Watch the movie. I talk about the movie in that video. I'm pretty sure I do. The playlist was really a big hit, and you can't watch it in place of the book, but it really the party scenes really capture the mood of the book, and I think it's so good. Again, it gives a different theme. I think it gives a different message. It makes you sympathize with Daisy and not Jay, Daisy and, oh, I just forgot his name, the husband. I hate when I do that. And you shouldn't sympathize. They are careless people, as one of the last lines in the book says. It is slightly different. Hi, James Smith. But I do love the soundtrack and the visuals of the movie. All right, let's keep going. I get distracted. Distracted. Killing Gerard. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to you. I apologize. I don't always see all the comments. But she had no reason to fear Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner's curiosity. It was not their wish to force her communication. It was evident that she was much better acquainted with Mr. Darcy than they had before any idea of. It was evident that he was very much in love with her. They saw much to interest, but nothing to satisfy inquiry. Of Mr. Darcy, it was now a matter of anxiety to think well, and as far as their acquaintance reached, there was no fault to find. They could not be untouched by his politeness, and had they drawn his character from their own feelings and his servant's report without any reference to any other account, the circle in Hertfordshire to which he was known would not have recognized it for Mr. Darcy. There was now an interest, however, in believing the housekeeper, and they soon became sensible that the authority of a servant who had known him since he was 4 years old and whose own manners indicated respectability was not to be hastily rejected. Neither had anything occurred in the intelligence of their Lambton friends that could materially lessen its weight. They had nothing to accuse him of but pride. Pride he probably had, and if not, it would certainly be imputed by the inhabitants of a small market town where the family did not visit. It was acknowledged, however, that he was a liberal man and did much good among the poor. With respect to Wickham, travelers soon found that he was not held there in much estimation, for though the chief of his concerns with the son of his patron were imperfectly understood, it is yet a well-known fact that on his quitting Derbyshire he had left many debts behind him, which Mr. Darcy afterwards discharged. So the more we hear about Wickham, the more bad things about his character we learn. And the more we hear about Wickham, the more good things about Darcy's character we learn. He paid off his debts. As for Elizabeth, her thoughts were at Pimpley this evening more than the last, and the evening, though as it passed it seemed long, was not long enough to determine her feelings towards one in that mansion, and she lay awake 2 whole hours endeavoring to make them out. Now she's having conflicted feelings. She certainly did not hate him. No, hatred had vanished long ago, and she had almost as long been ashamed of ever feeling a dislike against him. That could be so called. The respect created by the conviction of his valuable qualities, though at first unwillingly admitted, had for some time ceased to be repugnant to her feelings, and it was now heightened into somewhat of a friendlier nature. By the testimony so highly in his favor and bringing forward his disposition in so amiable a light, which yesterday had produced. But above all, above respect and esteem, there was a motive within her of goodwill which could not be overlooked. It was gratitude. Gratitude not merely for having once loved her, but for loving her still well enough to forgive all the petulance and acrimony of her manner in rejecting him. And all the unjust accusations accompanying her rejection. He who she had been persuaded would avoid her as his greatest enemy seemed on this accidental meeting most eager to preserve the acquaintance, and without any indelicate display of regard or any peculiarity of manner where their 2 selves only were concerned, was soliciting the good opinion of her friends and bent on making her own known to his sister. Such a change in a man of so much pride excited not only astonishment but gratitude, for to love, ardent love, it must be attributed, and as such its impression of her was of sort to be encouraged, as by no means unpleasing, though it could not be exactly defined. She respected, she esteemed, she was grateful to him. She felt a real interest in his welfare, and she only wanted to know how far she wished that welfare to depend upon herself, and how far it would be for the happiness of both that she should employ the power which her fancy told her she still possessed of bringing on the renewal of his addresses. Hi, Olivia. I'll read that in just 1 second. like not killing Kylan, like Kylan. I'm sorry, Kylan. For whatever reason, I see it as short as an I, and I apologize for that. Um, I appreciate it. You did do it. I asked you to. Let me know that you're Kylan. And then Olivia, I saw you were live. I'm currently not reading Pride and Prejudice, but I wanted to hop on to thank you. Separate Piece, hated that book. They helped me so much, and I just finished. Good. So you'll do well in school. I'm glad to hear that. Kylan, I appreciate you being kind. And is it Gerard? Jared? Gerard, I think. Write it phonetically for me and I'll get it. And then remind me every time. God, thank you for a Separate Piece. I legit used all of your audio. Oh gosh, that book is so boring. I don't know why I'm whispering. My neighbors don't care if the book is boring or not. That book is so boring. But I just feel like it is a good story. It's good to ponder and think about how our internal jealousies and things drive us to do things. But in-depth description of a leaf on a tree and that sort of thing. The first time oh, thanks, Kylan. I'm dingy. I may be nice, but I'm dingy and forgetful, so I'll probably mispronounce it again, knowing myself. I've told y'all my kids' names are Soraya, Shamsi, Shireen, and Darab. My oldest is David. He's named for my father. The other four have Iranian names. And nobody in America can ever get I don't even pronounce them correctly. It's really Soraya and Shamsi and Shireen and Darab, but I make them American sounding. I often wonder if you guys even catch the weird things I say, because I read to myself like it's my hobby. It's what I do to unwind. And I love when you guys, that's why I do the live reads, because I love the feedback from kids. I miss teaching class. And I know some of you aren't kids, but I love that live feedback of human interaction over literature. I miss teaching. I miss teaching so much. But I love the work I'm doing now. And I love the paycheck I'm getting. We need to pay our teachers better. That's the survey that should be on here. Should teachers be better paid? If they're professionals with master's degrees and PhDs, they definitely should be better paid. He who she had been persuaded would avoid her as his greatest enemy seemed on this accidental meeting most eager to preserve the acquaintance, and without any indelicate display of regard or any peculiarity of manner, where their two selves only were concerned with soliciting the good opinion of her friends, and Ben making her known to his sister. Such a change in a man of so much pride excited not only astonishment but gratitude, for to love, ardent love, it must be attributed, and as such, its impression on her was of a sort to be encouraged, as by no means unpleasing, though it could not be exactly defined. She doesn't know how she feels. She respected, she esteemed, she was grateful to him. She felt a real interest in his welfare, and she only wanted to know how far she wished that welfare to depend upon herself, and how far it would be for the happiness of both that she should employ the power. And I just read that, but I didn't understand it last time, so I had to read it again. Olivia, I'm going to ask you, since you said that, I'm thinking about, my kids told me this, I'm thinking about developing some merch. I know, merch, I'm not the age to say merchandise. And it would be fun stickers. Somebody told me last read stickers would be a great idea. So I'm trying to think of little catchy things. I know I say, let's read. I know I say, I read to you next time. I know hashtag best tutor friend. I know keep reading. But help me think of things that are fun and catchy that could either be on a t-shirt or a bookmark or a sticky, like on stickers. Mary Carter, I'm so glad to know that you've passed and good for you. You're done. Boss Sam, good to see you again. I haven't heard from you in a while. That's not a criticism. It just means I noticed that you're back. All right, it had been settled in the evening between the aunt and niece that such a striking civility as Miss Darcy's, in coming to them on the very day of her arrival at Pemberley, for she had reached it only to a late breakfast, ought to be imitated, though it could not be equaled by some exertion of politeness on their side, and consequently that it would be highly expedient to wait on her at Pemberley the following morning. They were therefore to go. Elizabeth was pleased, though, when she asked herself the reason. She had very little to say in reply. She's pleased. She doesn't know why she's pleased. She's getting a crush, but she doesn't want to admit it. Mr. Gardiner left them soon after breakfast. The fishing scheme had been renewed the day before, and a positive engagement made of his meeting some of the gentlemen at Pemberley by noon. So the story is developing. And are they going to fall in love? It started out so rocky. And what's going to happen to Wickham and, not Wickham, to Bingley and Jane? Are they going to end up together? I know because I've read the book before. But what do you guys think? What do you want? Do you think they should belong together? Do you think they're a good couple? Keep me reading. Keep me, that didn't make sense. Keep me knowing let me know, not keep me. Let me know what you think. Sometimes do you guys get lost in your own language inside your head? And I'm off tomorrow, so I should read tomorrow. I'll be wrapping Christmas presents and getting everything ready for my granddaughter. I just found out today that my dad's probably not going to be able to come. We're at 10% COVID rate, but the good news is they're going to start where he lives getting vaccinations before December's out. So that's really great news because he stays away from us because we don't want him to get it. He is a beloved father and grandfather and great-grandfather, and we all want him to be healthy. So yeah, it's probably an email I got from him today tells me he probably won't be with us for Christmas either. He was not able to join us for Thanksgiving. But if we keep him well, which thank God we have since March, he'll be with us for a very long time, and that makes us happy. So those of you that are able, help your families where you can. You cannot know as a teenager the stress that your parents are going through if they've lost jobs, if they're worried about their work, if they're worried about making people ill or getting ill, or, they're one of their beloved family members being ill. So be helpful where you can. Use this really challenging time to bring out the best in you and to help the community. Kylan, that's exactly right. I FaceTime him almost every day. I mean, I talk to him every day, but I FaceTime almost every day. And, I go by and visit when I can. He has, well, I don't want to talk his personal because I know he watches sometimes, but he's got a special friend and that makes me really happy. So he's not alone. And he's in a community where they really look out for each other. And that's great news. But you're right, Colin, that's the outlook to have, that we just try and make the best of it and keep healthy. And I'm so grateful that he's not been sick. And he had a scare. He had to get tested. He got exposed to it. But thankfully, he didn't get to see it. He didn't get to get it. He didn't have to get it. So, and go to the hospital and all those things. I have so much still to be thankful for. I have a job that supports me during this time. My children have all stayed healthy. My other disappointment, my son that lives in Brazil was supposed to come home for the holidays this year and get to stay 3 months. But, from Brazil, he's not going to travel with things like they are. But hopefully when the vaccination's done, he'll be here. Maybe we can do a live read together. I would love that. He is brilliant and such a good reader. He could read in Portuguese for us. So, yeah, I think it would be really amazing. I was trying to remember I have a student who speaks Portuguese, but he's not on the live read today. So I think of y'all as my students. I have a viewer. Okay, so if you see my little picture in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm in a red outfit and a big smile. Click on it and you'll subscribe. And I love to see us grow because that means there's hope for the world. There's a lot of people out there reading along. And I love that. And if you have already subscribed, leave comments, write to me. You can write to me on Instagram, Best Tutor Friend, or find the link for Discord in this chat or in one of the previous posts. Come over and chat with us on Discord. I'm on it every day. You can ask questions about homework or questions about books, or just chat with a community of people who like literature. It's a really amazing group of people that follow this channel, and I am so appreciative of y'all. Think about ideas and send them to me either on Best Tutor Friend Instagram or at Discord on some merch ideas. If you're an artist, I thought it'd be funny to have like a caricature of me with my dangly earrings and my big glass, saying "Let's read" or something over like peering over a book. Let's read. I'm just not a good artist, so I can't draw it. But just a real stylized graphic design. Some of you guys are so talented. I would love to see you do that. And let's see if we can get some merchandise. I hate that word, merchandise that unifies our community, identifies our community, and lets people know that nerds rule the world, because we understand more because we've read, and we understand one another and our cultures. We respect each other more. And I think it's just a great way to build a world of readers that makes us more intelligent, makes us better voters, makes us better community members. So if you are reading along with me on a regular basis, join our community at Discord, and let's think of a way to build our community so that more and more people respect and honor the nerdy kids in the school, because that's what I was anyway. I wasn't the cool kid. I was the nerdy kid. I'm still not the cool kid. I'm just the nerdy kid. So you guys keep reading, subscribe, hit the play button. And when you're on Discord, I tend to tell everybody, hey, I'm going live, so they know. And I will read to you next time. See ya.